Well, hello there, and welcome to Lindy's Audio Cafe. My name is Lindy, and I'm absolutely delighted to be back in the podcast chair today. It's a beautiful day here in the Comox Valley on Vancouver Island, but it's also really warm here in my little teeny office where I podcast. I've got a great guest who's on the show today, and we are talking from thousands and thousands of kilometers apart. He's joined me via Zoom, and I'm going to give you just a quick overview of who I'm talking to, and then we're going to say hello. So I'm being joined today by Mr. Richard Blank. Now, he's a very unique individual. He's pretty amazing. He holds a bachelor's degree in communication and Spanish from the University of Arizona. He has a certificate of language proficiency from the University of Sevilla in Spain. He's been a keynote speaker for Philadelphia's Abington High School 68th National Honor Society induction ceremony, and he gives back to Abington Senior High School every year. He endows a scholarship every year for students that plan on majoring in a world language at university level. Whew, speaking of language, that was a big breath to get all of that out. So that's a little bit about Richard, but that is only a small part of Richard. There's so much more to Richard. Richard also has a passion for pinball machines and jukebox restoration, and he likes to drive his white Volkswagen Cabriolet. Did I get all that right?
That was spot on, Lindy. Thank you so much for that.
Right
Amazing.
on. So welcome, Richard. Welcome to the podcast today. It is so wonderful to have you here joining us today. This is fantastic.
Well, you do have the coolest audio cafe on the internet, so I had to come by and hang out for a little bit with you.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I am so grateful that you reached out to come on the show. And this is wonderful. This is going to be so much fun for us today. So I'm going to start out by talking about pinball machines. Pinball machines are a lot of fun. I know when I was a teenager, I really liked them. I still like them to this day, but I think you like them even more than I do. Can you tell me a bit about it?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have the space to put them here, and a lot of people's trash is another man's treasure. So of course I'm going to grab those goodies. But I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and the arcades were the place to be. And if you were ever traveling or just around, you would always find either a jukebox, a pinball machine, or once again, these retro arcade machines everywhere. And I loved it. And it was very expensive growing up. $5 had to last you the whole weekend. So when I got older and I had some disposable income and started my business, and you could choose to buy a plane, a yacht, a limousine, I chose pinball machines. I just went around this country and kept finding these amazing beauties, and I love to restore them. And there's a lot of parts you can order online. Marco Specialties is one of my favorite places. You can get great prices, and they know how to break down the machine for you and tell you exactly what you need. And I found some electricians that worked at the local arcades and theme parks, and they moonlighted for me and would come to my home and my office and restore the machines. And I myself, I wasn't there grilling. I was there taking notes. So just in case they're not around, I know how to fix a flipper or something. And
that is perfect.
I was more a page to that night. And I'm learning as much as I can how to work on these machines.
That's brilliant. And that makes total sense to me. I mean, I think it's like if you're into auto restoration, you learn how to do certain things yourself. You take on a lot. And so being into pinball restoration, you'd be doing the same thing. And you talk about flippers. Now, for most people who play pinball, they know those flippers are those little silver things, right? That go up and down. Those things? Is that what the flippers are?
Well, we might call them American pinball flippers. And so it's usually at the bottom of the machine or sometimes on the side. And it's really just to keep the ball back in play and more strategic shots.
Yeah.
But, to fix that, it's just a resort day. It's just resistors where you can just replace some metal piece very easily. And as I'm saying, when you lift the machine and you take a look at it, or if you have something that has a mirror image on the other side, like a twin, you can almost see what that machine looks like, or that part, and what's broken or what needs to be adjusted on the others. And these are old machines. And they were built to last. And to me, especially the ones from the 70s and earlier, they really painted on the surface of the wood. They didn't put a certain laminate down. And so some of these old machines that are still restored through certain polishes, like a Wildcat 125 or other products, but it's almost like an old violin or a piece of furniture. You can see some of these little cracks in the machine on the play field above the art. and it has its own special role. You look at the marquees, this is an old wheel. Do they start putting in the certain lights and the certain upgrades? But the old machines for me had more of an open play field. Not saying it's a beginner machine, they're just as difficult as other ones, but I saw more art. Today, they're almost like stacking certain sort of things to increase the excitement in these newer machines, but I think it reduces the play field by at least 50%. It's a lot of loop-de-loops and tunnels you're going into, and that's cool for a little bit. But these old machines, you can really feel it. And so I agree with Elton John and The Who singing their Pinball Wizard. 1000% you can feel the machine compared to virtual pinball on your computer today. And I give them credit. They are making these virtual pinball machines that put hundreds of games, if not thousands in them. And that's cool. But there's a huge difference between a painting and a print. And when you see an original 1976 Bally's Freedom machine, which is in my home, in my personal collection, that is just in mint condition, you realize that it's been through so many hands and so many people played it and loved it and took great care of it. And now it's in my home and it continues to be played every day.
That is so cool. So now do you have friends or family or people that come over to play it? Who plays these with you?
Well, at the office, it's free play. So all the employees get a chance to let off steam, recharge batteries, make friends, and try something they've never done before. But
that is cool.
It's great. Instead of sitting around and just watching TV or just knocking back beers, which you can still do, you might as well come into my game room and hang out and play some old school video games and listen to the Jukebox.
Gosh. That sounds so cool. And so I'll just make a quick side note because you were mentioning you have it at the office. You have a call center in Costa Rica, right?
That was my medium to afford all of this. Yes, I came to Costa Rica in August of 2000 when I was 27 years old. Lindy, I was given a 1 in a million opportunity. And a friend of mine owned a call center here. And I was only supposed to be here for 2 months teaching English. But when you look at the floor of these bilingual individuals that were conversing on the phone, that were engaged, that were converting calls, I gravitated towards it. Besides learning the technical side, it seemed very easy for me. All I want to do is talk to people and make this easy for them. And
that's awesome.
And I learned the business from the inside out. And then in my mid-30s, I threw my hat in the ring. I had maturity, impulse control, and some capital. And from there, we started the business, and we just celebrated our 15th year.
Wow, good for you. That is incredible. And so you were mentioning in your call center, you have a gaming room set up for employees to go on their breaks and they can go and ding, 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 play on the machines.
Lindy, before you even start working with me,
really?
You go to the game room. You got to hang out for at least a half an hour before the first training class.
Oh, that is cool.
People are expecting to be grilled or to be intimidated. This is like the Willy Wonka of call center. You come in and you get to eat from that chocolate fountain. And so I want you to make friends. I want you to relax. I want you to see how I treat you prior to any sort of training. So maybe instead of just resisting, you can not just absorb, but contribute. And now you got 10 friends already. Lindy, we started with recess at your cafe. We started with fun first.
Yeah.
And if we can build that momentum and that sort of smile, then I think we can grow from there.
That is so cool. That is so neat. I never had any employers offering me pinball. I will say, though, I did work for somebody once where we took the boardroom table and we turned it into a ping pong table at lunchtime, but we didn't have pinball. We did not have that.
But you always remember, you can't just be the shiny object. You have to follow through. I just don't put the machines there in the mornings when I'm playing. And I find it appropriate, besides saying good morning, Jefe, I might get shoulder or arm touches. And I do find that appropriate because they feel comfortable with me. They want me to know that, hey, Jefe, you're one of us. You're willing to loosen your tie, go downstairs and hang out with me for 15 minutes. Lindy, if I'm having a rainy Wednesday or someone hung up for me or something's happening at home that's affecting my work performance, why don't we take a real time out? Why don't we combine what we know, which is real, and giving you your own dignity because you've been with me for a long time. Either get some coffee, water on your face, or worse comes to worse, come with me and play some Pac-Man. And I guarantee we'll work it out because I'm investing in you.
That's cool. That's really neat. So So as a teenager going back, was this something that you did a lot as a teenager?
1,000%. Besides being on a very small allowance, you had to be good at the games, or I learned how to take my turn putting my quarter on the marquee of the asteroids machine. But it was also fun to watch the other players that were advanced, especially games like Dragon's Lair. I mean, that was a very difficult game
Wow.
and very expensive. And the pinball was expensive. Unless you really know the machine or you have a lot of practice, that's a lot of timing right there. Now I
Oh
can
yeah.
jump on any machine and run a game for at least 15 minutes minimum.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah,
And
but
I
back
can
then,
remember doing that. I remember being in an arcade that we had back up north. Now I'm from the Yukon originally, from Whitehorse, and we had a little arcade there. I was not allowed to go to the arcade.
it was
And
expensive.
I am confessing on my podcast that I snuck in there because I've always liked games. I like computer games. I like the old retro games. And I can remember going in mostly because I just wanted to play the pinball machines, a little bit because my friends were in there too. But I can still remember going in there in the atmosphere, and you could just hear all the ding, 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 ding around the room. And if somebody was really good at it, like you were talking about, there'd be a little group gathered around that machine and everybody'd be watching. He's still going, and people are looking at the watches. He's still going, and then finally, eventually, when the machine won and the person didn't, you just hear this big "oh" in the room.
Everyone was so involved. I tell you what,
Yeah,
back in the day, I didn't have that the phone or a tablet or a way
yeah.
to, I guess, distract or occupy myself like the children today, which is nothing wrong with it. So let's just say I was out with my mom, right? And we're at Woolworths, and right next door was an arcade. She
Oh
might
yeah.
give me $1 and say, listen, kiddo, just go there, be a good boy. I'll see you in about an hour so you won't grill me. And
Nice.
so I had the luxury of trying a lot of these games and seeing them. But really, to me, because I love classic movies, and when I'm
Yeah,
watching things from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I will notice machines, especially jukeboxes and older pinball machines in all of the movies. Steve McQueen's got
that's
them in
neat.
half of his movies that I used
That's
to watch.
cool.
And even Humphrey Bogart's walking around jukeboxes every now and again, or those penny arcades with the
Yeah.
real classic machines. And so to me, besides enjoying watching movies and looking at old photographs, that additional hobby that I had to admire a machine, like for an example, Lindy, my friend, behind me right now, this is a 1961 Ricola Regis. I mean, she's beautiful. And next to me is my private candy stash.
Oh, is there
But
really
this
candy in
jukebox,
that machine? I'm looking at. Is there candy in there?
oh yeah.
Oh, I
Oh,
need
it's
one of those in my office back here.
oh, you need that. But I'm saying it's in my home, so all you can
Oh,
eat is
that's
your
cool.
child. But it's it's impossible for me to contain my excitement when I show up to a bodega, some guy's storage facility, and while he's taking away pieces of things, it breaks my heart because this thing is in the corner, not loved. But I'd
Oh,
be cool. And then all of a sudden I see her and I just cannot wait.
wow.
And I think the beauty of when you pass these things along because they have been bought and owned by grandparents or uncles or family members or special occasions, it's going to a good home. I let them know that I will be restoring them and doing all the right things. But when I open them up and there's a cachet of about 145s, I'm thinking I'm going to get things like In Excess, Duran Duran, Curtis Mayfield. I don't know. These are all people I have no idea who they are. They're all Latin American artists from like the
Oh
60s and
my
70s. And so
goodness.
I
That's,
give them all to my mother-in-law. She loves
oh, and she enjoys it. She likes listening to it, eh? Well, it's
but
funny, because I think, even when you talk about jukeboxes, I mean, I remember being at a Dairy Queen when I was growing up, and that was the place where all the teenagers would go to after school. We had a Dairy Queen. Imagine that, living in the north where it was 40 below in the winter, but we had a Dairy Queen. It wasn't cold in the summer, but we'd go in there and there was a jukebox by the door. And I can remember, sitting with your group of friends and, hey, we want to listen to this song or we want to listen to that song. And it's funny how certain songs still stick with me to this day. And that song, Sugar, Sugar, do, do,
oh
do, do,
yeah.
do, 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 do. Well, that song, Sugar, Sugar, when I hear
Isn't that
that
from the
song,
Archies?
yeah, it's the Archies. And anytime I hear that song, I think of that machine, that jukebox machine sitting in the Dairy Queen back in Whitehorse, because I can remember us loving that song and plugging in quarter after quarter after quarter. I'm playing it over and over and over again. But it's funny, those things bring back memories. And think about the machines you've got and how many memories those have brought for people. And it's not just the playing, it's the social part of it. It's the people who gathered together to enjoy it together.
My mom gave me a present. You were
Yeah.
mentioning the Archie Sugar Sugar. To
Yeah.
me, what reminds me of jukeboxes would be the Shirelles.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's a great song. Will you love me tomorrow? That is a
And on the
great
flip
song.
side, you got boys.
Oh, I love it.
This is my mama's old 45
Oh, that
Shirelle.
is great. Do you collect a lot of vinyl as well?
I do. And
Yeah, so do
I see
we.
the jukeboxes today where it's digital. You can press your song and it plays. But no, we like to see the arm move. We like to see
Yeah.
the needle. We like to sometimes see the inside and all of the 45s moving. You like
Oh,
to see,
yeah. Absolutely.
and
And the
that's just the
stacking and
beauty
how
of
it
these.
moved. And you think
Mhm.
about the technology, like I look at it, and I mean, I am in awe of anybody that creates anything that has technology to it. I mean, people that create programs, people that are in robotics, like in today's age, and they get things moving. I'm in awe of them. It's really cool. I have a son that used to be in robotics. He's a he works in computer technology. So I've been able to watch certain things he's done over time. But I
Mhm.
think back to looking back at those machines, and I think, if the people that work on computers today were back in that generation, that's who that would be. In my mind, those would be the people that were creating those kinds of things. And they're very innovative. They have very strong creative minds. And imagine the imaginations that go behind creating a game on a pinball machine. Like, who thinks of all of that? It's huge.
And they're geniuses.
Oh,
Each
yeah.
one has its
Yeah.
own unique style and flavor and the way that it moves. But no, the craftsmanship, the
Yeah.
fact that they work so hard on it, it's been preserved over. Of course, you need to replace a wire or two or a fuse, but these machines were built to last. But you mentioned something earlier. Imagine all the people that fell in love in front of this machine and
Yeah.
how these engineers and architects were paying it forward by creating moments and memories for people. It was
Yeah.
really something that was selfless. They might have earned a living from it, but they really created a medium that was so special that it's really been preserved in time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, I just look at it and I am in awe. And I think back to how long ago this really started. I was having a little bit of a look online before we were chatting. I didn't
Uh,
realize pinball machines were being made in the 30s. Like, this is my mom's age. They were back in the 1930s. And
mhm.
I mean, I'm not sure how accurate everything is that I read online, but I was reading a bit of history that, they became more popular in the 30s. Apparently, during Second World War, there was a bit of a pullback because some of the equipment that was being used on them was being needed for the war stuff that they were making. So it was a bit of a pullback. And then after Second World War, the pinball machine started to become more popular again. And that's what I'd read online. I had no idea of any of that. And
Want
you
to hear
read about,
something so sad? Like the
yeah.
prohibition when they were throwing away the alcohol and using axes
Oh,
to chop the barrels. They considered these poor vintage antique machines as gambling
I
machines.
saw
And
that
there's
online.
photographs of people destroying them. You say,
Oh,
oh, these poor machines did nothing wrong.
oh,
They were there.
no. I read that. That was right up to
I
the 70s,
know.
right? Like in the 70s, there was a time in certain areas where there was prohibition on them, right? They considered
Remember
it
the movie
gambling.
Footloose?
Yeah.
They took those machines out of that town. And so
No, are you
um,
serious? Wow. And I just look at that, and to me, it's like anything. I mean, anything in moderation, right? I mean, it's like gaming. I mean, I allowed my children to do gaming in moderation. Yes, you still need to get outside. Yes, you still need to exercise. Yes, you still need to work and do your homework and do your responsibilities. But when all those things are done, go ahead, have some fun. That's how I look at it. And I was shocked to find out that they had actually banned them. And I just think, yeah, it's funny. There's just different things over the decades. And, probably because we're a different age group. I'm in my late 50s, so I see things from a different point of view that maybe somebody in their 30s might. But, for people in our age group, pinball machines and jukeboxes. That's fun. That's just pure fun.
We were cool.
Yeah, we were cool. We were absolutely cool. So do you ever run into, have you bought machines and not been able to get parts where you're stumped? You can't fix it. It just becomes something you can look at, put a plant on top, or have you always been able to fix it?
If you have the part, it can be fixed. But there are certain things, and I'm not an electrician, but there could be some little fuse or some connector, something that was corroded that may affect the rest of the board. But when I have everything, it's really these individuals are almost like scientists or doctors. I've never seen such a thing where there's so many tests. It's like deductive reasoning where they just keep eliminating till they find the last thing. So some machines are fixed within a minute, and I thank them very much.
Yeah.
And others take weeks, months.
I could see that.
Years, because I might be looking for a very specific part. But
yeah,
all in all, isn't it a fun journey anyway? It doesn't
It is
matter.
pretty
Them is so great.
cool. It's pretty cool. So now, how's your space for it? Are you going to run out of room for your machines at some point? You're going to have to say, that's it, no more. Like how many machines? Is it okay for me to ask that? How many are?
Lindy, you have to make this decision once in your life. What swords are you willing to fall upon? And I'm more than willing to keep going.
Oh,
listen,
my goodness.
Very easy for me to keep finding space. And if it's not in my house, I got a ton of friends that would love to have one there for free.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. But in your local
area,
I've checked out the pinballs in your area or even 100-mile radius. People are giving them away. They might not know the minor things to fix or just don't want them anymore. And I tell you, if they're in your home, they enrich any sort of environment. It's a lot of fun. It's something to talk about. I even consider it somewhat of a beautiful piece of furniture in the corner. Why have a plant? Put a beautiful pinball in that corner. Light it up at night and make it shiny.
Yeah.
More people talk about that than your boring plant.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe your friends might want to come over more and call you. You might even make more friends.
That's hilarious. But you have a good point. Definitely it's a conversational piece. That is so cool.
Be your friend if you have a pinball machine in my neighborhood. I'll knock on your door with some wine.
I'm your neighbor. Here's a cup of sugar. I'm done. Let me in. I want to play that machine.
All day. You're so smart. Of course.
Oh, that is funny. But that's so true. And I mean, even when you think about retro things, and we're going back to the records and the jukeboxes. I mean, I collect some vintage books. I've had to kibosh my collections a bit because of space, but I love vintage books from the 30s and 40s, and I love old music. And we've ended up with quite a few boxes of old vinyl, and we've been going through it. And I know the other day I have this thing when I'm cleaning the house or I'm baking or doing stuff, either I'm listening to podcasts or I like to put on old music. And my poor partner, he'll come in the house sometimes, and if I'm on one of those old music kicks, oh boy, you don't know what you're going to be listening to. Some of it's pretty like, oh my goodness, where did that come from? But, I always find myself gravitating back to the same old music from the 70s, the stuff that I heard on that jukebox in the Dairy Queen. And I suppose it's because, it's a really good memory for me. It was good time spent with friends. It was something that we did that we enjoyed together. And I think it's so cool that you're able to do this now. Here we are in 2023, and you're still doing this, and you're enjoying this with your friends, your family, your people that work in the call center with you. Just everybody around you gets to enjoy these games, and that's pretty cool.
It doesn't start like that. They look at me funny, like a cat that sniffs a bit. They're like, really, should I play this? I go, just give it a shot.
Yeah, and see where it goes from there.
Learn the target. And we talk about them for a while, and then they find me very entertaining because I'm so passionate about it. And I tell the machines how beautiful they are.
Oh, that's
it's
funny.
almost like Stephen King's Christine, right? These machines.
No.
I believe, call me crazy, Lindy, but I believe that these machines have their own energy. Yeah. They will be passed on one day. I'm a guest of their time. They were here before me. So who am I? Yeah. And so I do believe that if you treat them well, they will give you that sort of wonderful moments back and give you that energy of the thousands of children that laughed and played and all the people that really took care of this 60-year-old machine. but this machine was taken care of all these years. And
Wow.
so I kind of respect that as well, the spirit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that is fantastic. So that's kind of interesting. So now one quick question that I would have before we wrap it up here today. I am curious because you are so much into this. Have you gone into any of the new style games? Like, I mean, I can't profess to be an expert in it, but there is all these VR headsets, virtual reality, the VR arcades that you can go to. I actually have an extended family member who runs a VR arcade in another community. And I know that people really enjoy that sort of thing. Have you given it a try just to compare it? Do you play any of the new games?
It's such an investment of time.
Yeah.
To really enjoy the game, you need to know the game.
Yeah.
A lot more buttons and a lot more things to press. Where in our day, you put in the corner, you press the button, it's maybe a joystick and one or two buttons. And so,
for sure.
It's really an investment in time. And so just for now, I find it fascinating, the games where you could fly planes or you're sitting in meditation rooms and really get the feel of the 360. That to me is a quick plug and play. I can enjoy that environment to start. We'll take it from there. But I am a retro gamer, even some of the home consoles. I remember getting my Atari 2600. I was very much into ColecoVision. People loved Intellivision, which was a great game. Vectrex was wonderful in '83, which had its own TV with it. And then I think my final one was an NES.
I don't remember that one.
System. And then that was it. I stopped spending.
Okay, so if you say Sega, then I can go. Is it Sega? And what was Genesis? Genesis?
All those consoles came out.
Kind of the same
PlayStations came and Xboxes, and it was tough to keep up. I'm more of an emulator. I prefer MAME. I like the multiple arcade machine. And I like to play my 3,000 games from 1977 to 1990. And
they're fun. What was that one that you used to play? Now, it wasn't a pinball machine, but it was an arcade game. Something Galaga or Galactica or something like that. Do you remember that one?
So many. You have Galaxian first, and then you had your Galaga where you could have the two ships together, which was
it. And the two things, and then the ships were coming down at you, and you ding, 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 and you get them. I mean, I remember.
They get you in the corner, Lindy, and then you lose one of the ships. That's their hustle. No. You never get two ships in that game.
No, and I was always losing quarters. But I know, when I go back to the pinball machines, anytime I go a place where they see them, I want to try them. And you have to be skilled. I think you need to be skilled after a while if you really want to keep going. And it's probably good for your hand-eye coordination too. I think that would be a good way to explain it to parents, that you should let them do it because you're working on your dexterity. You're working on your hand-eye coordination.
In my case, Lindy, these people don't go outside for a cigarette. Maybe they don't isolate themselves on their phone with Facebook or Instagram. This is a social environment. It's recess, it's play. That's how we grew up in the 70s and 80s. We didn't have our phones then. It's not like every day was the Breakfast Club movie where we had deep thoughts and life-changing moments, but these were things that we shared with others. And so these machines in this medium, in this neutral environment, allows them to do something a little bit different. And not everybody does it. Some people prefer to do their own things, but at least it's there for them. And they know that anytime they want, they can just go there and, as you mentioned, get better, recharge those batteries for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so neat. Well, I'm so happy that you came on the show today to share this. This is really unique. And I know that I've got a lot of listeners in my age group that spent a lot of time on those pinball machines back in the 70s and 80s. And I bet a lot of them would absolutely love to come and see your collection. So maybe I'm going to have to, when I'm done the show, get your address. And if I know anybody that's heading over to Costa Rica and they want to go and see your pinball collection, I can send a friend your way. Tell them to bring a machine.
Something in their neighborhood, send me what they see, and I can give them some feedback on what I think about those treasures that deserve to be in.
That's cool. And I do recall somebody giving me a vintage one years ago. It was kind of a tabletop stand-up one. And I'm so mad at myself now because at the time I was in the middle of downsizing and said, this thing doesn't work. Give it away to somebody that can deal with it. And now that I'm talking with you, I'm going, what was I thinking? I should have packed that thing with me and should have got it fixed. Shouldn't have got rid of it. That was a bad move.
We'll find you another one, Lindy.
Yeah,
Lindy's audio pinball.
Oh boy, that'd be good. Right on. Well, this has been so much fun, Richard. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy day and sharing the story about your pinball machines and your jukebox machines. That's pretty cool.
Your audience is amazing. Thank you for your time and allowing me to share my story with you today.
You bet. Have a wonderful day.
You too now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please click like, share on your social media, and hit that subscribe button for future updates. Don't forget to join the Lindy's Audio Cafe podcast group on Facebook or visit www.lindysaudiocafe.com. Have a great week, everyone, and remember when you head out that smiles come in all languages and in all colors.